We're talking, Susan.
I noticed. They are too.
See?
That's what you have to gavel. Ready? Everybody ready? Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Wow, thank you. Welcome to tonight's meeting. We're ready to get started. We'll call it to order at this time. And we'll start with the closed session report of, if I'm not mistaken, we did not have a closed session.
We did not. Nothing to
Okay,
report.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to call on Chief Livingston to lead us in the pledge because he's not going to be here a whole lot longer. Let's get everything we can out of him.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Luevanos.
Here.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Here.
Councilmember Judge.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Litster.
Here.
Mayor Mashburn.
Here. Okay, agenda review. Are there any items for agenda review or any changes, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we have a supplemental on consent 6. It references name change for the company that was recently acquired that we are going under contract with. So it's simply a name change.
Okay,
I move that all resolutions and ordinances presented tonight be read in title only and all further reading be waived.
Second?
motion and second, call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Declaration of conflict. If any member of the city council may have a conflict of interest or any reason why that member must abstain from consideration of any matter on this agenda, he or she should so declare at this time. Seeing no one, move forward.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, the first item on the agenda is item 1D1, presentation of certificates of completion to the fall CERT graduating class, and Eileen Connors is here to present this item.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, good evening. Tonight, we are recognizing the 27 Community Emergency Response Team, or CERT, training graduates from the Fall 2022 training class. Each year, the city offers basic CERT training to the community. This year marks the 28th year of this very successful program, which is offered to Simi Valley residents at no charge through a partnership with the Ventura County Fire Department. I didn't do the math wrong. We've had a couple of no-shows due to the rain. It's all good. With the addition of these graduates, over 1,600 Simi Valley residents and workers have completed 8 chapters of online training, 18 hours in hands-on disaster response training classes, and an in-person final simulating responding to a disaster. Ventura County Fire Department Captain Robert Miner conducted the weekly trainings for the city. Scott Thompson, the Director of Communications and Public Affairs, is with us tonight, and we thank Ventura County Fire Department for their partnership. Thank you, Scott. The city's volunteer disaster service workers support the CERT trainings. The volunteers with us tonight are Phil Ankrum, Daryl Clark, Jorge Curiel, and David Fisher. We thank them for their service. The graduates receive 6 weeks of training on a variety of topics, including disaster preparedness, disaster medical operations, search and rescue, fire suppression, team management, small group leadership, terrorism awareness, and disaster psychology. The CERT program plays an important role in preparing residents for disaster response and potential evacuations. For example, in 2019, the Easy Fire interrupted the fall CERT training as the students were called into action to help the community with their new skills. We thank these graduates for their dedication to the program and congratulate them on their graduation. We ask them to become champions for CERT and encourage their neighbors to take CERT training so they will have help when a disaster occurs. The next CERT class should be offered in the spring of 2023. People can take the 8-chapter online training right now. Visit the Emergency Services page on the city's website for more information. At this time, graduates, please come forward as your name is called to receive your certificate. Amber Albright. Joshua Cleland. Jennifer Quotzo. Heather Furlong. Ann George. Kirk Heineman. Melissa Heineman. Lori Jacobson. Richard Cundy. Anita Maher. Rob Marr. Richard Moore. Cecily Nelson. Naresh Rajak. Gina Reeves. Antonio Scarcella. Peter Wang. And Tom Williams. Thank you all very much, and if we have a moment, could we gather for a photo?
So bring them all down. I think Dee Dee wants to join the picture because she's a CERT graduate and she would very much like to be there. I can tell. Nice try, David.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, we have no speaker cards for public statements on appointments, special presentations, and informational reports. The next item on the agenda is item 3A1, appointment of Special Events Support Review Committee members, and Heidi DiNardo is here for this presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. In 2014, the City Council created the Special Event Support Review Committee to review applications for city support and to make funding recommendations to the City Council. The City Council purposely did not mandate that a certain scoring criteria be used to score applications, but did provide the committee with the following guidelines. Preference to fund events where event proceeds are used locally within Simi Valley, and preference to fund events with greater community public benefits over events with lesser community public benefits. Each year, the city receives several grant requests with only $25,000 available, so the committee has quite a task ahead of them this year. The committee is comprised of one member from each of the city's 4 neighborhood councils and one member from the Council on Aging. Those bodies have each nominated individuals for the committee, and it is recommended that the City Council appoint the nominated committee members. I'd like to invite the following individuals who are in attendance this evening just to come down to the front. Representing Neighborhood Council Number 1, Delilah Minter. Representing Neighborhood Council Number 2, Gail Sutton, who could not be here this evening. Representing Neighborhood Council Number 3, Julie Bershin. Representing Neighborhood Council Number 4, Joe Pachowski. And finally, representing Council on Aging, Ted Andrews. If you want to stand right over there, I think the mayor will meet you. Thank you.
And I'd like to make a motion that we approve and appoint. Mayor, may I make a motion to approve these nominees? And include that the mayor appoints after the motion.
Second.
My apologies. Motion passes with Councilmember Luevanos voting no. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 4, public statements. As there are no public hearings under Agenda Item 5 this evening, Agenda Items 4 and 6 are combined, and the council will hear all public statements under this Agenda Item 4. Agenda Item Number 4 and Agenda Item Number 6 are the times allotted for public statements on all items other than public hearings, appointments, and informational reports. Speakers will be called on in the order in which their card was submitted to speak for this public statement item 4 for a period of no more than 3 minutes each. Persons addressing the City Council are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Mr. Mayor, unless you have any comments, we will begin the public statements.
No comments, waiting for the first speaker.
First speaker tonight is Doug Bamforth.
Morning, everybody, or afternoon, evening, whatever we're on. Just a couple quick comments. I noticed in the paper that you've been taking some of my comments to heart as far as the water situation. However, that's only a part of it. In Israel, 98% of their reclaimed water is used for farming. And they have some of the most productive farms on the earth made out of a solid desert. I would expect us to start looking forward in the future to us doing the same, taking that water that we would just send out, Mr. Dabler, through the systems and use it to some use rather than just flowing out into the ocean. I know it's going to be expensive, and not one city can do it. But if you get a few cities together, it can be done. And that's it for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Lapper.
Mayor Mashburn and City Council, here we go. My farewell speech to 3 members of the council and Mayor Mashburn, Ruth Luevanos, and Mike Judge. Thank you for your service. While I am most definitely displeased with Mayor Mashburn's rude treatment of some speakers from the dais, I do have to thank you all for serving our community. Perhaps Mayor Mashburn will take this last opportunity to apologize for his unprofessional behavior towards me, especially calling me not relevant in Simi Valley. I am hopeful that the council members remaining take note and do better. We need better transparency, better communication, which should include responding to constituents' public statements via email, town halls, social media updates, allowing public statements to be read, and bringing back Zoom to our meetings so that those unable to attend in person may have their voice heard. To City Council District 4 candidate Rocky Rhodes, as a constituent of District 4, I'd like to remind Rocky and the voters of some of the outrageous comments Rocky made via Zoom to the City Council on October 25th, 2021, about Neighborhood Council District Number 4 volunteer nominee John Lapper. I quote Rocky, "John Lapper lobs verbal grenades and then backs out of the fray. John Lapper is so in need to stir controversy, he will be disruptive and antagonistic and have little to add to the conversation. I beg you not to give this person a larger platform," unquote. Neighborhood Council is a non-binding group of 14 residents. Is John Lapper attending all city council meetings, running from the fray, Rocky? Silencing me is not how a Simi Valley City Council member represents all their constituents. To those who have not voted in District 4, please take a look at Nancy Mason and Eric Lindstrom. A quick update about the removal of the 63 eucalyptus trees on Sinaloa Road, approved last meeting. Hundreds of comments on social media are unhappy with this rush process. As usual, 3 minutes is never enough time to respond. The stray green bid was June 15th, yet no notification to residents or neighborhood council. City arborist Mike Sandoval gave the impression he inspected all the trees and contacted most of the homeowners. I take issue with that. Here is what my public records request yielded. I quote, "City arborist Mike Sandoval did not prepare a separate report for the removal of 63 eucalyptus trees along Sinaloa Road. Mr. Sandoval reviewed the consultant's report and concurred with the findings and conclusions. Again, I call for an independent certified arborist to evaluate the need to remove all 63 eucalyptus trees for $175,000. I see a conflict of interest from Stay Green Incorporated arborist and question a bid that listed no specifics or details in the bid. Lastly, congratulations to our city council for successfully kicking the can down the road on RV parking guidelines and enforcement for the last 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
April Moisen.
Good evening. My name's April Moisan. My family and I have lived on Cadiz for over 12 years. And after hearing and reading on the Nextdoor app, I was so disheartened and disappointed in our city, as I've been a resident here for over 50 years. I was concerned because I thought our city had more integrity than that. Where is the formal bid process when it comes to deciding to take down over 100-year-old trees that I've come to love my entire life? I'm sorry, I feel so passionate about this. It breaks my heart that we were so cavalier in making this rush decision. Are the residents not aware and able to review this process or the bids? Where is the process documented, and why were no residents informed of such matters? This is extremely important to myself and so many of my neighbors who are not also informed. How can Stay Green be the lowest bid? Oh, it's the only bid. A single bid of a contract that's already been awarded? Mr. Sandoval estimated, that other services would be 40% higher, yet we don't have any trace of those bids. It seems unconscionable that we could go forward with one bid. So disappointing. Why was his bid increased to $175,000 on October 10th? The city has a current maintenance agreement and contract with no other bidders. And Mr. Sandoval stated that he was familiar with all the neighbors, using his words, on Cadiz. Yet myself and none of my neighbors, and I reached out to 50 neighbors, were notified. Mr. Fuchiwaki, our public works director, explained that the cost had to do with girth, trunk diameter of each of these trees. So topping these trees would certainly cost much less, right? Oh, but Mr. Sandoval says that it costs the same to remove them as it does to top these trees. Conflict of interest? What exactly is involved in the removing of these trees? Root ball? The stump? Are they going to grind down the stump? What's involved? I'd like to know further details. Again, with a very small sampling and a very minimized report. What happened to the structure and integrity of the street? Has anyone done a soils report? What about local residents' block wall fencing on private property? Has anyone considered what will happen with all the erosion that's already occurring on the county side of the street, which is the side I live on? Is there any impact report, case study, or precedence that's been set under such massive tree removal in
Ma'am,
the city?
your time is up, ma'am. Thank you.
Joe Pachowski.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn, members of the City Council. I'm glad to see that the sidewalk vending ordinance is back for a second reading. No sooner did you guys pass it through the first reading a few weeks ago than a week ago Saturday, I actually saw what appeared to be the same vendor that the county warned everyone about during the summer. But this cart with a cart parked on Royal Avenue, right near the entrance to the Albertsons parking lot. So all I wanted to say tonight is I very much in favor of this ordinance. That way our police department can start making sure that any sidewalk vendors in our city are properly permitted and that there's no sidewalk vending in residential areas, with the exception again of the kids with lemonade stands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thomas Adams. Thomas Adams.
Ladies, gentlemen, as far as Simi politics goes, the October 28th edition of the Simi Valley Acorn painted a clear picture. Although the races purport to be nonpartisan, most are aware that they are drawn heavily along party lines. According to the Acorn's figures, Republicans clearly outraised and outspent Democrats. While every candidate pledges to represent all of us, the big question is, who do we believe will actually do that? In the race for mayor, the three top contenders are businessman Fred Thomas, union organizer Joe Ayala, and community college affairs director Mary Portier. Again, according to the Acorn, Thomas outspent Ayala by nearly 10-1 and Portier by about the same. Thomas is a former president of the Police Officers Association and well entrenched in the status quo Simi Valley establishment Republicans who have poured a lot of money into this race. Ayala, who ran against Keith Mashburn 2 years ago and garnered a respectable showing of over 17,000 votes, is a Democrat, but he has conducted major outreach to local business owners regardless of their party preference. In the races for city council, Mike Judge, another familiar name, has outspent his opponent, newcomer Sean Weisman, by nearly 5-1. They are squaring off for District 2, while the District 4 seat will be held by one of three candidates: businessman Rocky Rhodes, aerospace industry financial analyst Eric Lundstrom, and former school principal and food pantry director Nancy Mason. Rhodes has outspent Lundstrom by a margin of nearly 4-1 and Mason by 2-1. Scott Enright, who withdrew from the race, has since put his support behind Mason. The race for the hotly contested Area D school board seat tells a similar funding story. Don Brote, also endorsed by Simi establishment Republicans, outraised Christina Pine, who was endorsed by the teachers union and 3 of the sitting board members by a margin exceeding 2-1. Brote is a businessman, Pine, a private school teacher and parent of 2 children who attend Simi public schools. So, Simi voters, who will it be this year? The same players with a few different faces? Or folks who are more like you and me and believe that we all deserve better? Data show that Simi Valley is equally split in terms of party affiliation, with a wide swath of voters declining to state. It will be overall voter turnout that decides the results of this year's election. Your vote matters a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Juan Miguel.
Good evening, City Council members. I'm here tonight to make a request to see there is a possibility that you guys can investigate to find out if the either Brown or parliamentary rules are applied consistently and equally to all the members, because my experience has been that it hasn't been applied, especially for the last 3 meetings that I have been coming in. I noticed that in the past, when Ms. Luevanos passed, I guess, 90 seconds, I don't know exactly how many time is allowed for you guys to respond to the public comments, and she gets called or shut up frequently. And in the last 2 or 3 meetings, I saw Ms. Lister went beyond the 90 seconds, I'm sorry, and I saw Mr. Keith Mushrooms on the meeting on, I believe it was on October the 10th, close to 3 minutes. So I would like to see if there is an investigation to see if that gets applied consistently to everybody. And also, I'd like to make a clarification. Last meeting that I came, one of the comments that I made, I requested to the candidate for District Number 4 to apologize to Ms. Luevanos, and I saw the apology, non-apology, and it came across as I was present when that happened. And it came across that I was more offended than Mrs. Luevanos, and Mrs. Luevanos was so gracious enough to accept the apology, no apology. But let me tell you how it happened. There were about 7 of us there. We encountered each other, we say hi to Mrs. Luevanos. Mrs. Luevanos was crossing her arms, and the candidate for District Number 4 went and only gave one flyer to her, invading her privacy in front of her husband, and he never bothered to offer a flyer for all of us. So he says that that was offensive for us. I think it was rude, mean, and very low. And God forbid us if he gets elected. May God save this city, because he also went to my church on October the 22nd, where I was in charge of an event for cancer awareness, and I saw him kind of hiding from behind, and I approached him and I say hi respectfully, and I asked him, how can I help him? And he told me that he was invited to pass on some flyers because somebody told him to do it. And he told me that somebody told him to do it, that his manager made arrangements and everything, and I went, no. Church policy, you are not allowed to do this. And he still didn't believe me. And until he went and talked to the priest, and he still gave kind of hard time to my priest, but then he gave in. Even though there was an event on October the 7th, his people were passing flyers there without any permit from the city officials. And I know this because I check my reliable sources. And this is the reason I come to see if the candidate for District 4 can say who was the source that told him to go to my church. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There are no more speakers. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is item 4A, City Council comments regarding public statements.
Anybody wish to speak in response to the comments tonight?
I don't know if your thing is working or not, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Luevanos.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Banfres, for bringing up the issue of reclaimed water. I have brought it up before. I'll bring it up again, hoping partisanship doesn't cause my colleagues to deny me that opportunity yet again. Mr. Lapper, thank you for bringing up the issue of the eucalyptus trees and the public records request. I'll be asking for that on 10B. And Ms. Moisan, thank you for coming to speak tonight as well. I'll be asking for that as well, for that report.
Mr. Pachowski, I'll respond to you because we're going to cover that later on in the agenda, so I'll wait for my comments there. Mr. Adams, thank you so much for coming to inform of all the candidates that are running for office. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. And Mr. Juan Miguel, thank you very much for bringing up the issue of inequity. I'm trying to see where he has of inequity here on the dais. I greatly appreciate that. And Mr. Rhodes, I would hope that you would have the maturity to act like an adult while you're sitting back there and not smirking and laughing like a middle schooler. I think it's really immature for you to do that, and I would expect more of you.
Okay, someone else? Oh, Mayor Pro Tem Litzner.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, in order of comments, Mr. Bamforth, my understanding of what you spoke about was the use of potable water specifically for agriculture. And I think that that is something, yes, we certainly supported the discussion of researching potable water for all sorts of things, but I appreciate your specifically recommending the importance of that for agriculture. And I think that we should certainly add to the discussion. I'm not quite sure what Councilmember Luevno said as far as not having support. I think we discussed at our last meeting, all of us voted in favor of exploring uses of water. To those who spoke about the eucalyptus trees, I will tell you that I went home after last night's meeting and had nightmares. I was telling our city manager about that I'd killed some trees, and so I really did. Because I don't take it lightly. I really did. It was, and so I would think it's worthy of revisiting and being certain that they truly are, maybe in a second opinion, but truly are diseased and are about to fall. They are beautiful, but I understand that. Anyway, I think I'm not opposed to further discussion about that. And other than that, I thank you for all of you who make your comments. It's much appreciated. And I concur, our votes really do matter, and encourage all to do so. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Just thank you to everyone that takes the time to come out and voice your opinions and share them with us. We try to do the best we can. I do respect the fact that we have differing opinions across the board and that we're all able to listen to each other and try and make the best decisions for our community. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is item 7, the consent calendar, and there are 4 resolutions for your consideration this evening. Consent to item 8, resolution number 2022-59, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley approving the administering agency state agreement for state-funded projects number 07-5405S21 and program supplement number A085 to implement Highway Safety Improvement Program project number HSIPL-5405092. Consent to item 9, resolution number 2022-60, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley confirming and renewing the proclamation of the existence of a local emergency, and resolution number 2022-61, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley confirming the existence of a local emergency and authorizing remote teleconference meetings of the legislative bodies of the City of Simi Valley pursuant to the Brown Act provisions. And consent item 10, resolution number 2022-62, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley regarding conflict of interest codes and adopting and incorporating by reference the Fair Political Practices Commission Standard Conflict of Interest Code, and rescinding resolution number 2020-52.
Mayor, I wish to pull consent items 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 10.
6, 7, and 10.
Yes, and they're quick questions.
I'm sorry?
They're pretty quick questions.
Okay. Anybody else?
I move to approve consent items 2, 5, 8, and 9.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, call for the vote. There we go.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we'll start with number 1.
I'm not sure who to ask. Just ask away.
You can go ahead
okay.
and ask them.
Okay.
Someone will jump in.
Yeah, I just try to give time to whoever's coming down, the staff member. So I had a question. I'm glad for the findings, and I just wanted to know if we're going to get, for issue of transparency and accountability to the public, are we going to get a report on how the purchased items are helping the community and how many people are being helped? I know I had asked for an external evaluator for some of these community grants, and that request was denied. So in order to make sure there's accountability and transparency for the taxpayers, I'd like to know if we know how these purchased items are helping the community and if they're being used exclusively to help the community for the intended purpose of the grant.
Yeah, I think the intent is when the grant is over, we'll have a closing report that comes back that provides all the information on what the expenditures were and how it benefited the community and the number of persons benefited.
Okay, and just to make sure, I guess I have a question on the grant. Does the grant allow items that are purchased, such as the vehicles or equipment, to be used for the business as well, or just
It can.
for the nonprofit? So they can double dip.
Well, I mean, there are community grants that are provided by the council, so the council can technically set the rules on how they want to distribute the monies.
Okay, well, because I saw that report, I think it's page 5, it says at the top, attachment B, page 5 of the community branch project, I saw that there were items that were purchased, fitness equipment. I want to make sure that's being used for the purpose of the grant.
The intent is it would be purchased for the grant. That's correct.
But is it being used to benefit the community in the way that the grant intended it to be used?
If I could respond to that one, only because I believe you're talking about the Body Brain Train grant. And I was there at the ribbon cutting on Friday. I spoke with the owner. These women are working, they are to benefit those who have MS and our senior population. They work with them specifically, the owners, and I will tell you that they were very grateful. We talked specifically about how they're trying to pinch every penny to get the maximum amount of value for the community. In fact, they're even talking to me about how they're waiting for Black Friday so they can buy more equipment and possibly maximize so they can use it. And they demonstrated and those that were in attendance were clearly the community that they were supposed to serve. So I just want to personally let you know that my experience is that they are trying to be very careful of the funds, whether it was reflected in this report or not.
Okay, well, I just wanted to know if, taxpayers will know that they're being used exclusively for that purpose in the
Yes.
future.
Again, through the closeout of the grant, we will have full documentation on how the grant was used and how the expenditures were made.
Okay. And how many people were helped?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, number 3.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening.
I'm looking at page 2 of the report,
Yes.
and this is for a grant for STEP activities. And I see that the purpose of the STEP grant is for impaired driving enforcement, operations focusing on primary collision factors such as distracted driving or seatbelt compliance, traffic enforcement operations highlighting motorcycle safety, and public awareness and educational programs.
Yes.
But when I looked at that same page in the report, halfway down, it says the equipment will be used for primarily for DUI checkpoint activities. And on the alternatives, I see that on number 3, there's a request for a supplemental budget request to cover personnel costs for overtime expenses. So is this grant money going to be used to cover overtime, and is that the sole purpose of setting up these DUI checkpoints?
No. The sole purpose is to enforce DUI laws and to do what the explanations are that are in the report. But there are costs that go with running DUI checkpoints, so the grant has terms in it that we can cover the cost of the officers as well, but that's not the sole purpose.
Okay, what is being done for primary collision factors such as distracted driving or seatbelt compliance, the motorcycle safety, the public awareness and education programs, pedestrian and bicycle safety? Is any of this grant money being used for that purpose?
Yes. So, the officers go out and do enforcement details. They go out and they may look at a certain intersection where we know that we have a high number of collisions or we have vehicles versus pedestrians. So we usually set up an operation there where we can set officers there to watch that location, or sometimes we even set up a decoy operation where somebody walks across the street. And so we do those kind of enforcement activities that are covered by the grant.
I couldn't find it, but if it's in here, I apologize. Is there a percentage that you would say how much of that is for DUI checkpoints versus everything else?
I would be guessing, but I'm going to say the majority of it goes to DUI enforcement, not just the checkpoints, but also a big piece of this is the education of the officers, what's called the DRE, or Drug Recognition Expert Certification. So the officers have to, it's kind of like, I guess for lack of a better term, a certain licensing that they have to be able to testify in court. So that expires, and so they have to go through a recertification program. So a good portion of that, is going towards DUI. Again, not just the checkpoints, but the education of the officers and the enforcement operations. So I would say the majority of it towards DUI.
And what percentage of that is going to cover overtime?
I couldn't tell you the exact percentage. There are some overtime costs that go with it, but the majority of it is going towards the actual operations.
Okay, are the overtime costs due to the DUI checkpoints?
It's due to everything that's on the report here. Again, when we do these enforcement activities, I would like to say that we'll always maintain a certain budget, but things happen. There are reports that need to be prepared, so we have to build in overtime costs, and the grant allows us to cover those associated costs. But they're not. It's not like we say, okay, well now that we got it, let's post all these shifts and just go do it so we can use it. We're actually using it for enforcement, and so just like anything else in police work, overtime is just kind of the nature of the beast. Sometimes it's part of it.
Okay. Are you aware that DUI checkpoints have historically been used to the detriment of communities of color?
From my perspective, my only experience with DUI checkpoints is here in Simi Valley. And here in Simi Valley, that's not how they're used. In other words, I'm not questioning what you're saying. That might be in some other department, not in Simi Valley.
Okay, because I have had several people come up to me, that are very concerned, obviously, even though, I know they can get a driver's license, but several people who've lost their cars, their only mode of transportation, things like that. They were not driving impaired. There are many people that experience trauma just with encounters with the police department. So, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm going to vote no on this.
Okay.
Because it is my understanding from the community that I've heard from that DUI checkpoints are not always used just for drunk drivers, and they get a very small percentage of drunk drivers.
So, but here in Simi Valley?
Yes. So
That's really interesting because I can tell you.
There's no question pending.
Okay.
So I'm going to vote no on item 3.
That's fine.
Do we then want to have this item taken separately? And I might want to clarify that this is a grant, receiving a grant of $135,000 that the state has given us for this purpose to use to help our officers. I want to be sure that people understand the nature of what this.
All right, I'll move consent item 4.
The majority of which will be used for DUI checkpoints.
3.
3. I'll move consent item 3.
Okay, so we need you.
Second.
Motion and second on consent 3. Okay, we move to.
Motion passes with Councilmember Luevanos voting no.
Councilmember Luevanos, number 4.
Yes, I just wanted to know, is this, I know we have a state law that's coming soon about electric vehicles. And
yes.
I just wanted to know, how long are these vehicles going to last? And are we going to have to replace them before we have to, get EVs? Or can you give me?
I hope they last for a long time.
If I'm city manager, they're going to last longer than the police department wants them to last.
Right.
I'll tell you that.
Okay, will we still be allowed to use them, or?
Yes.
Yes, I mean, we'll be able to use them for the life of the vehicle.
Okay.
And then, we'll comply with whatever changes come, and it's always just difficult to find companies, as you can see in the report, that actually make the police packages anymore.
Okay, that was just I just wanted to make sure we comply with state law.
Okay.
Consent 6. Councilmember Luevanos.
I was just curious, whoever can answer this question, as to why we did not do an RFP for this.
We have an existing contract with this company. And there are, I think, they're sole source. There are not a lot of providers for these chemicals that we are getting. And we already had an existing contract.
Yes, this is just an amendment to an existing contract.
I'm well aware that it's an amendment, and, I know that we've extended contracts, but I know you guys know that I'm going to question you on this anyways. Is this comparable, or how do we know that it's comparable to other vendors, that this is a competitive rate? I'm well aware that we can extend contracts, but is there some sort of specific expertise, or is there a limited vendor list that requires us to extend this contract? And I just want to understand the justification for not doing a request for proposals.
There are a limited number of vendors for these types of chemicals, and especially in the volumes that we use them. I know other agencies are using these same firms and got contracts recently. Based on the cost increases, we are evaluating whether or not we should go out to bid again for next fiscal year.
Okay, so this contract is for
There's only 1 year.
1 year extension,
Yep.
and then next year when this expires, we can do a request for proposals.
Correct. We're hoping the pricing gets a little bit more realistic. The prices for these chemicals have gone through the roof recently. A lot of it is on availability.
Okay, so is it your belief, either one of you or both of you, that extending this contract is more cost-effective than seeking a new contract with a different vendor?
At this point, yes, because we're needing to extend the contract in order to continue the flow of the chemicals that we can get.
I understand the need for the chemicals. I'm asking.
No, I mean,
Is it your belief that extending the contract is it's more cost-effective than trying to get a new vendor?
At this point in time, yes.
Okay.
Okay, consent 7. Councilmember Luevanos.
I'm very glad to see this, that we are getting grant money for compliance from the state. I'm glad that they put money behind this mandate. However, I do have some concerns. I actually have a community compost bin at the school where I work in Reseda, and we had to put in a lot of safety measures because we have a lot of critters, raccoons and squirrels, and we wanted to avoid vermin because it's on our school campus. So my questions are, who is going to administer this? How is this going to be wildlife proof? We do have a lot of critters, and we have coyotes and raccoons and squirrels and skunks. And who's going to maintain this community compost bin? And is that cost included in this budget?
So this grant, how we're looking at it right now, isn't so much for community compost bins. It's either subsidizing or completely funding at-home residential compost bins, which are a lot smaller scale. Some of the models we've seen lock in ways to where it'd be difficult for rodents to get in, although nothing is really rodent-proof in life. But so for right now, we're looking at home backyard compost bins where green waste and food waste can be mixed, as well as smaller bins for under the counter for food waste to be placed into prior to going outside.
So is this something that we're doing in conjunction with waste management, or is it separate?
It's working with waste management, so they're going to help us both store these bins and help us distribute them.
Okay, and then for people who have concerns about, and I understand the purpose of, compost bins, you compost and then you use that, the good dirt, right, to plant and stuff like that. But I also understand, I'm a resident who has the same concern as other residents, and there's actually some residents that have covenants in their land purchase agreements that they cannot and should not grow food in their background. So usually you get compost, right, and you compost and you make dirt and then you use it to plant, right, in your garden. But I know there's some places you can't grow trees, for food to eat, and you can't, grow stuff in the garden. And there's concern with the contaminants from the Santa Susana Field Lab radiation still. So what can people do who have these compost bins that they have the compost, they've composted, now they have this really great dirt? Can they give it away, or can they, what do they do with it?
Well, it doesn't have to be used for food-producing product. You can be for your bushes and flowers and petunias and everything else.
Okay.
So you have all kinds of options as opposed to just for food-producing plant material.
Well, and I guess, and this goes back to, a lot of people are, because of the drought, are getting rid of their grass, are getting rid of, things in the yard, and they're getting, AstroTurf and stuff like that. So is there a plan, either from us or Waste Management, to, like, if someone does want the dirt, can you give the dirt away to someone else if they want it, the composted dirt?
Well, I mean, composting is not mandatory. Taking the food product and throwing it into the green or whatever color bin it is, but composting is not mandatory. So if you have no intent to compost, we wouldn't be delivering any one of these to you.
Okay.
So this is only for people that want to participate in the program.
Okay.
Consent 10, Councilmember Luevanos.
Okay, I saw the list of who's included and the conflict of interest. And I was wondering why, several very high positions, city managers, city attorneys, certain directors, I saw most were reporting for 1, 2, and 6, but I did not see reporting for 3, 4, and 5. And categories 3, 4, and 5, if you look at page 10, include investments in business positions and business entities and sources of income that are engaged in land development, construction, or acquisition or sale of real property within the jurisdiction of the city, investments and business positions in business entities and sources of income that provide services, products, materials, machinery, vehicles, or equipment for a type of purchase or leased by the city. And category 5 is all investments in business positions in businesses, entities, and sources of income, including gifts, loans, and travel payments that provide services, products, materials, machinery, vehicles, or equipment of a type purchased or leased by the designated positions, department, unit, or division. And I want to know why those categories were excluded, because if we are approving contracts and someone who works within that department, especially the legal department, are handling issues that they're privy to, with any of these departments, managers, city attorneys, administrative services, environmental services, it seems like that's something we would not want a conflict there. And I do see that those provisions, 3, 4, and 5, are included for others, like assistant planner, associate engineer, associate planner, but not for the director of environmental services, not for the city attorney's office, though there could be liability there, not for the workers' comp supervisor or manager. So who can explain to me why those aren't included?
Isn't that Councilmember Luevanos, because those other people are required to file the Form 700 that includes all that information?
Well, it's that, and those persons aren't making the decisions. They may be making a recommendation, but they are not making the final decision. Those decisions end up coming through either my office or to the city council.
But if they're
I
making,
file under a different code section, as well as the city manager, city attorney, city council, and planning commissioners all file under a different code section.
but if they're making if they're the staff members making recommendations, then they could profit from knowledge of that.
Well, and as I read it, if I could, I believe it looks to me like Category 6, almost 3, 4, and 5 are subsumed in Category 6, which basically, and that's why it maybe doesn't state, but Category 6 says that all investments in business positions and sources of income, including, going through the whole thing, subject to the regulatory permit or licensing authority of the designated positions department, unit, or division. So all investments in business positions would subsume 3, 4, and 5, I believe, and that's why they are subject to Category 6.
Well, it does, Category 3 is specifically about land development and construction and real property. And I don't see that subsumed under Category 6, otherwise it wouldn't be included for other positions in the city.
Well, we don't do land development. I mean, it's not a conflict if they're not representing us in that process.
Well, and the purchase of machinery, vehicles, or equipment, so if someone's, spouse is the working at the Ford dealer and they're gonna get the commission, from the purchase of vehicles that we just approved for the police department, that seems like a conflict of interest to me.
Those are all bid out. We either do a cooperative contract like you just approved, well, you will approve this evening, or there are bid.
Quick question. If we're selling city property for the purpose of development, doesn't that fit into that category?
It would, but that would only be authorized by the city council. There's no staff member that could authorize the transfer of city property.
Okay, so that has to be
It would be city
by
council.
the entire council.
Correct.
Okay, and so if a council member had a conflict, that would then
That would need to be
happen
disclosed.
at that time.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
May I move to approve consent items 1, 4, 6, 7, and 10?
Second.
I vote no just on 10, but I would approve the rest.
Do you want separate
Can I make
votes?
a separate motion?
Okay. I move to approve consent items 1, 4, 6, and 7.
Second.
Motion a second to 1, 4, 6, and 7 on the consent calendar. Call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
A motion to approve consent item 10.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Motion passes with Councilmember Luevanos voting no.
And if I might just quickly make a comment, I just want to commend the city. We have just approved 3 different consent items where we approved almost $500,000 in grants, $468,700. And I'm appreciative of the efforts of receiving these, of working to get these grants to assist our community. So just wanted to point that out.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 8A, second reading of ordinance number 1345, amending Chapter 5-12 and adding Chapter 5-45 of the Simi Valley Municipal Code regarding sidewalk vendors. The reading of the ordinance is as follows. Ordinance number 1345, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley amending Chapter 5-12 of the Simi Valley Municipal Code and adding Chapter 5-45, sidewalk vendors.
Comments?
This is just second reading.
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment if I may, Mayor.
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm voting no on this. I voted no last time. I have already seen the comments on Nextdoor. I have seen the comments on Facebook and on social media, and I'm appalled and disgusted at how people are already attacking sidewalk vendors or planning on attacking sidewalk vendors, the comparison yet again to the San Fernando Valley, and not in a positive way. The comparisons of Simi Valley to the San Fernando Valley are never positive. They're always in a negative way, in a derogatory way. And let me remind the public that there are many, many people, myself included, that would not be able to afford to live in Simi Valley were it not for our jobs in the San Fernando Valley. I personally welcome the diversity. I personally welcome those who want to sell fruit, something healthy on the sidewalk to my kids and myself, and I will continue to support them. And I hope that the public is aware that this ordinance is meant to protect sidewalk vendors. And if you are attacking a sidewalk vendor, then you will be subject to the law. As Police Chief has mentioned before, that this law is also intended to protect sidewalk vendors. So please, the comments attacking sidewalk vendors are horrible. And they have a right to be there. If they're permitted and they have everything they're supposed to have, then you're not entitled to harass them. They have a right to make a living. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I would like to make a comment.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to remind our viewers, the council, that this ordinance was passed in support, the state has passed an ordinance in support of sidewalk vendors, and so much thought went into the process to be certain that sidewalk vendors were being responsible for health codes and business permits, so that they function as a business as any other business who has a brick and mortar. And so I just want to be sure that we understand that the purpose of this is to make sure that they are conducting business in a safe, legal manner, and that is good for all those involved, and that further the restrictions are in such a way that people who are, for instance, wheelchair, ADA compliant, there's a variety of things that are placed in this ordinance. And I know that our police department took a great amount of time to be certain that the regulations as outlined are absolutely compliant with what the state has requested, but protect, yes, the vendors and protect our residents. And so it is written well, and there's a reason why we are supportive of this ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 1345.
Second.
Motion and second. Call for the vote.
I'm voting no because that was not the reason that was cited for passing this ordinance.
Motion passes with Councilmember Luevanos voting no. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 9A, approval of a COVID-19 Community Recovery Grant contract between the City of Simi Valley and Interface Children and Family Services, and Heidi DiNardo is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. This evening for your consideration is the city's proposed contract with Interface Children and Family Services as part of the COVID-19 Community Recovery Grant Program. This grant contract will assist Interface with support in sustaining and expanding their mental health and trauma treatment programs, and with necessary renovation and repair demands at the 2 East County emergency shelters. For almost 50 years, Interface has connected individuals and families to vital health and social support services, such as housing, job placement, reentry programs, crisis response, domestic violence and human trafficking services, confidential shelters, and food and mental health services. Integral to the focus of Interface is their commitment to serve high-risk, vulnerable, and marginalized communities, providing prevention, diversion, and intervention services to persons at risk of or with histories of abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Interface has been challenged to meet the increased demand of residents across our region, including those in Simi Valley. Interface was able to successfully modify services without sacrificing the quality or availability of their programs, while offering both in-person and virtual services. However, the continued need for services is greater than ever. To provide some statistics, in 2020 alone, 67% of mental health and trauma treatment clients were under age of 17, and 20% of clients, which is 130 individuals, were uninsured or underinsured. In 2021, Interface provided critical care and services to 66 survivors in our East County shelters, 27 adults and 39 children. As of September 30th, 2022, Interface provided care and services to 39 clients and anticipate exceeding last year's numbers in the remaining 3 months of this year, and continued expansion of services in 2023 and beyond. As families struggle to find affordable mental health services because their needs are unmet through insurance, Interface faces a parallel challenge of retaining high-quality therapists to meet this demand. Funding is being requested for 2 categories: domestic violence safe house and vulnerable population case management. Funding for Interface's family violence intervention and prevention programs will be allocated to advance the shelter programs and services, and will address significant shelter repairs and renovations as identified in the staff report in the amount of $112,000 that were put on hold due to the pandemic and are now becoming problematic and require immediate attention. Once repairs are completed, Interface clients will be provided with a safe and welcoming environment after leaving an abusive situation. Funding for mental health and trauma treatment will provide continued support of personnel, operations, and support staff to help support the vulnerable population in the amount of $138,555. Like many organizations operating in the post-COVID-19 environment, funding is needed to support efforts in hiring, retention, and replacement of key positions to meet increasing mental health needs. If approved, funding for Interface is requested in the amount of $250,555 and will be distributed over the next 2 years per the funding budget proposal submitted. Staff will return to the City Council annually to report on Interface's progress and to reevaluate the distribution of funds and the corresponding needs at the time. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for questions, as is Eric Sternad, Executive Director of Interface Children and Family Services.
Okay. Any questions of staff?
I do have a couple of questions, Mayor.
Yeah. Let her go first.
Sure.
No, you.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Lidster.
Thank you, thank you, Mayor. First, a quick question. On the staff report, page 2, it talks about 2 confidential emergency shelters. Is that accurate? Here within Simi Valley?
That is accurate.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then it talks about doing the renovations at one of the facilities. In that it's confidential, I wondered if maybe the address should be redacted from the report.
It's only available to you.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
done so.
Thank you. That, I feel better about that. Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Lou Evanos.
Well, I had one more question.
Oh, okay. Let me back that up.
But you can
Mayor
come
Pro
back
Tem.
to me.
Mayor Pro Tem.
My other question was with regards to the time period. I know this is $250,000. It says over 2 years, but I noticed that the contract ends December of
2023, is that
2023,
right?
which is just a year from now.
That's a good point. All of our contracts that we have been working on with these initial ARPA grants that moved to COVID-19 community recovery grants, most of them had the extension or had the end date of December 2023. Is that correct? But I think we come back every year.
Right. I believe this will be a 2-year contract
So-
instead of a 3. So perhaps that's an error
We
in
could amend the contract.
in the contract.
Mhm.
It's
Okay.
a 2-year period, not 3, because they feel that they will have all of those things done within.
Which is fine. So this appeared to be a 1-year contract, and that's why I was trying to understand. So if I'm understanding correctly, it is $250,000 to be used over 2 years. Now, whether it's all front-loaded or divided equally is to be determined by them, but it's spread over 2 years. Okay. So maybe the contract needs to be,
I think we should extend that
It-
in the
it's-
event that all the funds were not provided upfront.
okay. That, very good. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Okay, we all ready? Councilmember Lou Evanos.
I just have a quick request. It's not so much of a question, but I know that the youth, our Simi Valley Youth Council has mentioned mental health as one of the issues they're focusing on again this year. And given the staggering statistics of 67% of those seeking mental health support for trauma are under the age of 17. Is there any way they could communicate with our youth council to let them know of their services? Is that already happening or not? Or can we make that happen?
We can certainly introduce youth council. I'm sure Mr. Sanad actually happens to live in Simi Valley. So.
Maybe you can do a presentation to the Simi Valley Youth Council. That would be wonderful. And just thank you. As a teacher on the front lines in the classroom, I can tell you that that statistic is accurate, absolutely, because I see it every day in my classroom. So if there's no other questions, Mayor, I would like to make a motion.
Any other questions? Okay, ready for the motion.
I move to approve the COVID-19 Community Recovery Grant Contract between the City of Simi Valley and Interface Children and Family Services for a not to exceed amount of $250,555 and authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
I'll second that.
A motion and second, call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 9B, receipt of the fiscal year 2021 to 22 Simi Valley Public Library Annual Report and adoption of the 2023 to 2027 Strategic Plan. And Kelly Tinker is here to present this item.
Good evening, Board President Mashburn and members of the Simi Valley Library Board of Trustees. This evening, I have the privilege of presenting the Simi Valley Public Library's annual report for the 2021-22 fiscal year, as well as presenting for the Library Board's consideration the library's newly developed 5-year strategic plan proposal for the period of 2023 through 2027. Fiscal year 2021-22 saw the completion of the library's previous 5-year strategic plan, adopted in 2017, which placed intentional focus on several priority areas in the provision of library services: making access easier, telling the library's story, empowering customer service, cultivating community creativity, and supporting educational pursuits. Each year, staff presents an annual report to the Library Board, which provides information from our library services provider, Library Systems and Services, LS&S, on library usage trends throughout the year and an update on how the efforts of library and city staff are supporting these priority areas. A brief overview of some of the library's successes in fiscal year 21-22 are as follows: 2,774 service hours, 112,336 library visitors, 3,768 new library card holders, a total of 33,549 library card holders, 309,132 physical items borrowed, 53,226 digital items borrowed, 8,075 computer users, and 128,680 individual Wi-Fi sessions. The library has also hosted 2 job fairs, 2 wellness expos, 3 blood drives, and served as an election polling location with more than 11,000 votes cast on site during the year. As COVID-19 restrictions continued to ease, the library promoted an in-person summer reading program and also hosted the 2nd annual Community Reads campaign. Additionally, in the continued support of educational pursuits, the library has continued to develop programming featuring literacy, STEM, arts, teen topics, and supplemental support for K-12 students and lifelong learning for adults. Adult literacy programming and tutoring has continued to see great participation and success, and multilingual storytime allows for participation from English or for children and families whose primary language at home is not English. As the previous strategic plan was nearing completion, city staff worked with LS&S along with collaborative input from stakeholders and the Simi Valley community to build the new Simi Valley Public Library strategic plan, which will provide the guidance and framework for the library for the next 5 years. The priority areas of the proposed plan are as follows: build community, connect and increase access, enhance services, and build awareness. Community engagement efforts included a combination of social media posts, press releases, publications in local news outlets, and in-person community focus groups. Ideas and feedback were gathered from stakeholders of all types, including local business, education and nonprofit leaders, library customers, volunteers, and city and library staff. Roughly 400 community members participated in the process by way of responding to surveys, attending these focus groups, or participating in individual interviews. As a result of these engagement activities, Simi Valley residents directly shaped a plan that will support the library's continued success and provide ongoing exceptional service to the public. Their strategic plan includes priority goal areas that will expand the community partnerships, address service gaps to create a library that is even more accessible and welcoming, and provide programming for diverse learners with emphasis on multilingual elements, technology needs, mental and physical health, and reimagined and expanded youth and teen services. These priority areas of the proposed strategic plan will be foundational in staff's preparation for an upcoming renovation of the library's interior space, and they have also helped to identify service level enhancements that the city is working to include in our contract with LS&S. It is recommended that Simi Valley Library Board of Trustees receive the Simi Valley Public Library Annual Report for fiscal year 21-22 and adopt the Simi Valley Public Library 2023 to 2027 strategic plan as proposed. This concludes our presentation, and staff is available to answer any additional questions.
Questions for staff? Yes.
Not a question, but a comment. I'm sorry, Mayor. I'm sorry.
Actually, I do have some questions, if that's all right. And this, Kelly, you might be the one, or it might be, I know we have, might be our wonderful director, Kelly. So we'll see which one wants. Actually, I have to tell you that your annual report was absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, visually engaging and informative. It was just beautiful. But unfortunately, it was so interesting that I had questions that came out of it because it was just so beautiful. For instance, you talked about the customer-driven collection development, which was enhanced by the state library grant, which is wonderful. And I was just curious if that if you felt that led to a lopsided or narrow collection growth. Basically, if I understand it, you let people decide what they wanted to acquire, and then it got added to our inventory. Is that accurate?
I can answer that.
You can answer that. Good, Kelly.
So the Zip Books grant is what the California State Library grant was called.
Mhm.
Is just an additional sum of monies that was allowed for any of the content that folks were looking for that wasn't available in our collection. Our collection development is still handled through LS&S, and they go about spending our collection enhancement budget every year the same way. So that didn't affect the way that they go about the curation of our collection.
So tell me of those. So it didn't in any, well, I'm just curious, it was a curiosity what type of items were acquired.
Through the Zip Books grant?
Through the Zip, yes.
Excuse that squeaky voice. That is an answer for Kelly Bealey. I actually don't have.
Well, this is, if you don't want to answer it, it's okay, but it was a curiosity. Kelly, do you have I have a story to tell about you anyway when you come up, so it's a good one.
Is this on? Yes, okay. I do not have a list of titles that were ordered through the Zip Books grants, but they are often things that are not, well, they have to be things that are not in our collection currently. That's part of the state requirement. They're not part of our collection, and they are sometimes things that just maybe aren't on the top list, the second list that are coming out from publishers, but something of very, very great interest to some people in Simi Valley. So we really intend to spend those grant funds on items that would be enjoyed by multiple people in Simi Valley because, we only get one chance to spend those funds.
Sure.
So I don't have a list for you, but
That's
I'd
all
be
right. It was
happy to give, we do have a list.
I'm sure you do. It's just a
We do have a
curiosity.
list.
Well, let me ask you about the cloud library. As I understand, that they pay, the library or LNS pays per use. Is that accurate?
We have two portions of the cloud library collection. Did you want to take that one, or did you want me to take that one?
And I guess my question was, does the library cover the full cost, or does the person who is, the patron who is ordering something, is there any cost incurred to them at all?
No, that's incurred by the collection budget, the same that we would with our physical collection.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. And then also, just because this report was so cool, laptop kits, and national park passes. And we have a happening library. I just want to say that. This was really cool. So how many laptop kits do we have, and have they been returned, and are they used? And
Yes, they are returned. Sometimes we have to do some coaxing
okay,
to get them returned.
I could see maybe overdue on that one if I were.
But they are returned. So I believe we have 7 kits active now.
Wonderful. And the national park passes are to anybody, or are they just for seniors? I mean, citizens, are they for, anyone can go and check out a national park pass?
Yes, state park pass. Mhm.
Right,
So-
state, yeah, I'm sorry, state park pass, which I thought was just phenomenal. Okay, I just want to share one quick funny story, and then I'll be quiet. Just because as I was reading your report, I noticed that Dana Hammond there was a picture of her in your report as a librarian, and one of the things you referenced was just all the wonderful programs that are, as you mentioned, all the wonderful things that are happening. And so I commended her for being there. And so she said, "Oh, I didn't even remember that." And so this is what she shared with me, and I just got to read it because it was cute. She said, "I was checking out a book, and one of my students was so shocked and excited to see me. The clerk said I was a rock star. I was relating this to Kelly Bealey, and she said we should do this." I thought she was joking, referring to the basically, what would you call the program? It was
Meet me at the library.
Meet me at the library. I was relating this to Kelly Billy, and she said, we should do this. I thought she was joking at first, but we did it. And I passed on the information to the other library assistants as to how successful it's been, and it's taking off like crazy. It's good to see people going to the library. And I just wanted to commend you, Kelly, that clearly you saw something sweet and ran with it, and that's what you do for our library. So thank you. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you very much.
So, thanks.
I have a couple of questions, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
So I saw on page 27 of Enhancing Services, it says, serve the diverse community through excellent library services. And I was pleased to see where it said, provide program for diverse learners focusing on multilingual elements. And I saw the second bullet point says, provide English conversation groups and connect with appropriate partners. But as you know, the school district has a bilingual certification program. And very often I get asked, will you talk with me in Spanish so I can learn Spanish? Is there a possibility of having other language conversation groups at the library so that people can get that bilingual seal of competency? Is that part of the plan, or can it be included in the plan? People who want to practice Arabic or Tagalog or Spanish or...
Kelly Billy, if you want to come up and answer that, you're welcome as well. Otherwise, I can say that multilingual story time and the development of all of these, across all of these different programs, would be something that we would be very interested in being able to perform. So it's part of what the strategic plan is looking for. It's part of what staff is working with LS&S to put together.
Okay, so I would like to just, if it would say, provide just language conversation groups, just so that people don't feel like we can only speak English at the library. Does that make sense?
It does.
Because like I said, that would be great collaboration with the school district, who does offer a bilingual seal of literacy, of biliteracy, and I know that would be a great safe place for people to practice. So that's one suggestion. And then I saw the other goal on the same page, page 27, is to develop and maintain collection based on community needs and create engaging displays. And I have to say, I love walking to the library and seeing the displays. I love the blind date with the book. I love all the stuff you guys do for Pride Month, for Valentine's Day, for all the things that you do are amazing. And I've had people say, I really want this book, but I don't know how to ask the library to get it. So how can they ask for those books or request that those books be purchased by the library? What's the process?
That can be as simple as speaking with library staff at our circulation desk or anybody who's roaming the library. And there's also an email address on our website that's askus@simivalleylibrary.org. And you can make those requests online as well.
And is that already included in the funding of purchasing those books, or not? Or is that extra grant money that you have to apply for?
We have a very robust collection development for the size of our library. And all of that information is then taken by our library services provider and in turn used to be able to purchase the books that would service the community best.
Okay, great. And then I had one more question. On page 28 of the report, it says increase internet speed through broadband. And we're getting fiber throughout the city. So is that something that the library is going to be able to apprise itself of so that we have faster internet speeds? I know quite a few students who go to the library because the school district does not have very fast internet speeds, and so they'd rather go to the library. So is that something that we're apprising ourselves of? I don't know who can answer that question.
Yeah, I can tell you. The library is currently served by fiber that we use here at the building. We have a run that goes over to the library. And with Sci-Fi coming in, there'll be a connection there too. So we will make sure that we keep high-speed internet available at the library.
Okay, and is there a Wi-Fi hotspot if people are outside the library or if they get kicked out?
Yes, there is.
because
It
it's
goes
too
all the
late?
way out into the parking lot as we were, as COVID was hitting, we were providing that parking lot with Wi-Fi.
And that will continue to exist?
We sure will.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, and thank you for everything the library does for our community. I've grown up with it, with my kids, and I love all the events you guys do. Thank you.
May I just make a couple of quick comments? Our library is our unsung hero, and I like the way that it attracts all different ages. I've gone there with my grandson for preschool things. Our youth council has used it for things. Our senior center has used it. And the bookstore is there. A lot of people go to purchase bookstores, and that's to help support our library. One of the things I was going to bring up was a renovation. I'm so glad you said that because I was going to bug the city manager about that. We really do need to upgrade the interior of our library and bring it up to be a little bit more modern so that people, it's visually impressive at the same time as impressive as our staff is. So you guys do a fantastic job. But it's kind of funny that this came up tonight because just recently I was reading an article on how humorous librarians can be. And they had the mystery section where the books are turned around so you can't see the names. And then they had a bookshelf that said, oh, you said the book cover was red, but I don't know the name of it. So it was a whole bunch of books with just red covers. So librarians do have a good sense of humor. And I just want people to realize that. So I just want to thank you all. I've enjoyed every time I've gone there. My grandsons have enjoyed it. And so thank you for all you guys do. We should make a motion to approve. Sorry. I move to receive the Simi Valley Public Library Annual Report for fiscal year 2021-22 and to adopt the Simi Valley Public Library 2023-2027 strategic plan as presented.
Second.
Have a motion second, call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 9C, approval of a COVID-19 Community Recovery Grant contract between the City of Simi Valley and the Economic Development Collaborative, Ventura County, for the creation of a business assistant revolving loan fund, and Kelly Tinker's here to present this item as well.
Before we start, may I make a question of our city attorney? I am the vice chair of the EDC currently. Do I need to recuse myself for this? Yes. Okay. I'm recusing myself. Thank you.
Well, good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. We are excited to bring forward for your consideration the city's proposed contract with the Economic Development Collaborative of Ventura County, known as EDCVC, as part of the COVID-19 Community Recovery Grant Program for a business assistance revolving loan fund. This loan program is designed to assist small businesses recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic by providing low-interest loans in the range of $10,000 to $100,000, with the goal of assisting those businesses unable to secure a traditional bank loan. A revolving loan fund is a source of money from which loans are made for multiple small businesses. It is a self-replenishing pool of money where loans are repaid by borrowers will return to the fund in order to allow for subsequent loans to businesses. Interest and fees will support program administration for long-term sustainability of the program. Like the graph explains, the city's investment is the seed money to create the fund. The first few years of lending will be focused on the growth and success of businesses as they continue to recover from the lasting impacts of the COVID pandemic. And as the pandemic wanes, subsequent loans will be focused on business growth and expansion. EDCVC will be responsible for the administration of the revolving loan fund. Founded in 1996, they have been providing loan and no-cost assistance to Ventura County businesses of all sizes, partnering with the 10 cities and the County of Ventura to enhance economic development. The U.S. Small Business Administration has designated the EDC as a Small Business Development Center for the county while also serving Santa Barbara and parts of Los Angeles counties. While administering its own loan program for all Ventura County businesses, the cities of Oxnard, Camarillo, and Ventura have contracted with EDC to administer a revolving loan program for their respective communities. The EDC's loan program has loaned over $21 million and created over 1,200 jobs through this effort. 67% of loans are to women and minority-owned businesses. So total city investment of loan capital to establish the revolving loan fund is $1 million. It's done by way of the following annual grant payments to EDC for the management and administration of the loan program. It's going to be around $250,000 annually for a 4-year period. Additional city investment for EDC administration of the loan program for the period January 2023 through January 2026 is $25,000 and will be utilized for bilingual marketing outreach and to support program administration for the first year of operation. Should the program experience strong participation and expends its annual allotment early, the city has reserved the right to advance funding scheduled in subsequent years.
The eligible use of funds are as follows: working capital, create or retain jobs, acquisition of equipment or inventory, machinery, fixtures, furnishings, or energy improvements, as well as leasehold improvements. The ineligible use of funds would include loans made to casinos or any business engaged in gambling activities, loans made to nightclubs, loans to home-based businesses or startup businesses, loans for the purpose of lending or investing, or loans to any business engaged in illegal activities. Here are the key parameters of the program. The interest rate is currently at 5.25%. The term of the loan can be amortized up to 7 years. And in order to qualify, a borrower must have a business located in the city, have 1 year minimum business history, have repayment ability such as business assets like machinery or accounts receivable, and acceptable credit history. The EDC VC is providing a lower than market rate for loans and uses the Wall Street Journal prime rate like many lenders to set their rates. Many banks usually track at prime plus 2 or 3% for their interest rates. As of November 3rd, the Wall Street Journal prime interest rate was 7%, meaning lenders could lend as high as 10%. EDC VC's portfolio goal is to create at least one job for every $25,000 loaned, so the lower rate incentivizes business to create or retain jobs within our community. All loan proposals recommended for funding will be subject to review by the EDC's loan board. The board is comprised of not less than 4 members from professional banking, finance, or small business backgrounds, with 2 existing commercial banking loan officers, and the EDC's president and CEO, all of whom must have demonstrated experience and expertise in financial management. All loan applications must be approved by a majority vote of the loan board. Staff recommends that the City Council approve the COVID-19 Community Recovery Grant contract with the EDC VC to aid businesses in the local economic recovery from the continuing impacts of the pandemic. Should the City Council approve the contract, the city will launch the revolving loan program on January 1st, 2023. This concludes our presentation, and staff is available for any questions.
Councilmember Lou Evanos.
Thank you, Mayor. I saw the statistics that 67% of loans are to minorities. Is it and women or women?
67% of women, to women and minority-owned businesses.
Okay, so that doesn't necessarily mean they're, so can you disaggregate that data? Can you tell me how many were to minorities and how many were to women that were not minorities?
We don't have those statistics. These are coming from the EDC.
Okay, and the reason I'm concerned is because I want to make sure that it is heartbreaking for me that we have small minority-owned businesses that no longer are with us because they could not get the help that they needed. And something like this would have helped them. That they went through all the channels, they went through everything to get the COVID recovery funds for businesses, but they applied through traditional banks, through Wells Fargo, through Bank of America. And then had we had a program like this, those businesses would still be with us. I'm heartbroken. The one place where I could get decent pupusas in town, I can't go there anymore because it no longer exists. And that is heartbreaking to me. We also know that the vast majority of businesses are started by immigrants. tend to be minorities, and they have a more difficult time, especially during COVID, had a more difficult time getting loans. So that's why I'm asking for the disaggregated data. If, you could tell me how many minorities or how many women, if you tell me 7% were minorities and the other 60% are women, and they're not minority women, then, are we really helping the business owners who need the help?
We can definitely probably get that data from EDCVC, but it would be something that they would have to go through their files and then provide us with the various ethnicities or minority-owned or female-owned, but I don't have that information for you right now.
Okay, could we, is there any reason why we couldn't table this so that we could get that data?
Would that make a difference in the program?
Yeah, how would that make a difference in what we do?
Not understanding what
I want to make sure the funding goes to where it's most needed. That my other concern is that there have been people that have already gotten COVID recovery money, and I want to make sure that this money is actually going to the businesses that it's intended to go to. So is there something in here that says if you've already gotten COVID recovery money, then you can't get this grant? Or is it open to anyone?
It is open to anyone.
So
But
that's
it
my.
also has to create, the goal of the program is to create a job for every $25,000 invested. So regardless of who it goes to, it's going to create jobs in the community.
Well, and that's another concern is I know that we have local businesses that received COVID funding that, we're paying people under the table and that we're, not complying with the things that they were supposed to comply with for that COVID funding. So I want to make sure that this goes to help businesses that haven't already received help, help the businesses, prevent businesses from closing. The purpose of this funding and the reason we approved this was to help those local businesses that haven't already gotten help. If someone has already gotten COVID funding time and time again to the detriment of other local businesses that are not receiving the help that these funds were intended to be, I want to make sure that that's not happening.
But I do want to, this isn't just a regular business loan. They have to show the need for it and present it to a loan board that is going to review the information. So it's not just, I need more money to keep my business going. It is, you have to show the need and fit one of the categories for which you're going to use the money for. It's a fairly in-depth, I've worked with the EDC in the past. This is similar to other programs that Oxnard and Camarillo and Ventura are running with the EDC, and they do an in-depth analysis on the need for the business to get this loan and what exactly it's going to be used for and how it's going to create jobs.
Could you give a rough explanation of the board that would be looking at?
The loan board consists of persons in the financial industry. They may be bankers, they may be loan officers with different banks. The EDC has a list of 6, I believe. 4 of them at any time will sit as a loan board, and they only approve loans that are unanimously voted upon by the loan board.
And I believe this program is also designed for businesses who can't go through a standard corporate bank like Bank of America or Wells Fargo. They would be denied. They're not bankable. So this program serves those smaller businesses that would not be able to access a loan through a major bank.
So how do we know that those businesses are going to be prioritized? Because if people who already, businesses, and that's why I want to include it, businesses who already qualified for those COVID funds, right? Because we know that the major banks gave out money because they got a commission on how much loans they gave out. So the bigger the loan, the more commission the bank made. So the incentive for Wells Fargo and Bank of America and Chase was to give the larger loans to the larger companies. So I want to make sure, again, that this funding is going to those companies, right? Those little businesses, those little guys, those companies who could not go through Wells Fargo and Chase and Bank. And so if they haven't received COVID money already, that means they're the ones who need this money. And that's why I want to make sure that the money goes to them. So I would like to exclude those who have already received COVID funding from this loan program.
If I might make a comment, the way this is structured, and obviously we can choose to vote and change it. The way this is structured, we don't exclude those who've received COVID help already. trust me, as a small business owner who's received COVID help, and I'm not eligible to apply for this, I just want to make it very clear, but I'm telling you that it is an ongoing struggle. So I don't think we want to exclude them simply because maybe they received PPP, or maybe they received a city grant, or maybe they received a county grant. But to your question, and that was one of my questions I was going to ask, so I don't think we should exclude them because of that. But on page 20, it says that one of the requirements is that they have been denied a traditional commercial loan.
Right.
And so one of my questions was going to be, do businesses have to prove that they have actually applied for a commercial loan somewhere to be considered? Is that part of the
They
requirement?
need a turn-down letter.
They need a turn-down letter. And so, and I want just to share that with Councilmember Luevanos, that suggests that they really, we're talking about a cohort that needs the funds and is not able to get it through traditional channels.
Again, my concern is, there has been, over $100 billion of PPP loans that are being investigated as fraudulent, including from our own elected Congress members who have businesses. So that's why I would like to exclude people that already received PPP funds, and make sure that those businesses that are still struggling, that are still hanging on, that have not received any help, that they get the assistance. It's inequitable for us to continue to give funding and support to businesses who have already received funding, especially if they've already received PPP funds.
Here's the problem with that as I see it. There are so many businesses that have received assistance of some kind. To exclude all of them, I think you're only talking about a very few businesses. But the intent of this is not, it starts, certainly, as I read through this report, it starts as COVID recovery help, and that's the objective, et cetera. But it's self-perpetuating. After several years, truly, it is designed to support business, to grow, to provide jobs, to grow, et cetera. And so this is setting up a revolving loan fund that goes in perpetuity if it's administered well, and long beyond COVID years. And so I think we should be looking at the big picture myself.
Well, again, I know for a fact that there are businesses that could have benefited from this, but they didn't get the support or the help from EDC. And so my concern is a valid concern, because I know that for a fact there are businesses that no longer exist, that could not get support from PPP, that could not get those loans. And so I would hate for the same businesses to continue to get the support to the detriment of those that have never received any financial support and that will still be lacking. And I continue to see this time and time again, every time I go on social media, that there are local businesses that are struggling and no one is helping them. And that's what these funds are supposed to be doing. They're supposed to help people. So if we, at the very least, at the bare minimum, prioritize those who have not received any financial assistance, because that is the purpose of this, is to help those local businesses that have not received any help. If we are to be a truly pro-small business city, then we need to prioritize those who have never received any financial assistance, because I know that they're out there and they haven't received any help, and it would be inequitable
Okay.
to
I
continue
think at
to
this
fund those
point,
that have already
I
received
think
money.
We're getting a little redundant. Let's,
I'll make a motion if you want.
Actually, I have questions, please,
okay.
if I might. Thank you, Mayor. If I might ask some questions. I understand that the intention of this is to benefit the small businesses. And basically, we're talking about $250,000 a year that's going to be allocated. I'm a little concerned about that we're capping it at $100,000. If theoretically, we would maybe, if we had a business, I'm a little concerned that we may have raised that too high. Allowing a loan of $100,000, basically we would help two businesses, maybe 2.5 businesses, if by some chance those were the ones that were funded. I know the parameters that are built into this, it says, are defining small businesses at $5 million in gross sales or 25 employees. I know those are classified as small businesses, but my concern is that feels medium-sized business. Maybe it's because I truly have a small business. I'm not sure what that. But I guess my question is, could we consider at least lowering that cap, or lowering the, to maybe $50,000 as the maximum amount that could be loaned.
So in discussion with the EDCVC, their concern was equipment costs for a restaurant, for event, for a stove, for refrigeration is very expensive and could run up to 100,000. So they wanted that opportunity to be able to fund should someone come forward and need that equipment. So that was one of the reasons why they had us go up to 100,000. I believe we originally wanted 50, but they were saying we should really look also at up to 100,000. That doesn't mean all businesses are going to apply that need 100,000. We might get some that need 20,000. We might get some that need 50,000. But I think they wanted that opportunity, should someone come in, that they have the ability to fund.
I think we're looking at an organization with two true professionals on their board, and that's very evidenced by having our own Councilmember Kavanaugh on there, and she's a banking professional also. So we have a board of professionals, an organization run by strictly professionals, has been my experience, and now that we're going to tell them how to run their business.
No, but this is our program that we're having them instigate.
I didn't say it's not our program. I'm saying who we're working with, and I don't want to rebuild the EBC.
So then let me ask you, are all of their other loan programs have a 100,000 cap? Is that consistent? Do we know? I mean, the other two cities, for instance, you mentioned.
I believe it is.
I can speak that Camarillo's is up to 100,000, but I actually don't know the.
Yeah, I believe Oxnard's as well. And Ventura uses a different pot of money. They use CDBG money for their program.
Interesting. And as I understand, as I read this report, a business needs to at least put, I think, 20%, if they're, have to also put at least 20% of their own funds if it is for a capital acquisition of some kind.
Yes, they need to have skin in the game.
Right.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Could I please finish asking questions, please?
Yes,
That was
I'm
my
so
first question, if that's all right. Page 19 says the underwriting guidelines are at 4.25% interest rate.
It's 525.
5.25.
Page 19 says 4.25.
It's wrong. It should say 5.
Okay, so maybe that needs to be corrected in the, so the underwriting guidelines will be at 5.25% as well.
Yes.
It also talks about rates can be adjusted. I might, since we're changing the rate there, I might recommend that we include the wording up or down. Obviously, as interest rates fluctuate, I want to be sure, I just might make that recommendation that we are mindful that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, it's very easy to raise rates, but sometimes we don't think about
no.
lowering them, and I would love to have that, make that clear. Okay, so thank you. So I just want to then reiterate to my counterparts here. Are we comfortable then that this is for businesses up to 5 million in gross sales and 25 employees? Is that the cohort that we are comfortable with? Or do we want to change that in any way? And that's a discussion for Councilmember Judge, Mayor Mashburn. Do you have any concerns about that size, or you think
I have
that's?
no concerns. I'm very happy with the staff report.
I do have concerns, Councilmember Litzler. I'd like to lower that.
I'm happy with the staff report.
What is the logistics to change it? I mean, would we have to go back to EDC and have to renegotiate a contract? Is that where we're at? Is that what that would take?
Well, we're setting the parameters for the loan program. If you wanted to lower the threshold, we certainly can do that. It's certainly the council's prerogative.
Would that change your relationship with EDC? I mean, does that, what is it, do you have to, it's not a negotiation per se, it's just that these are the parameters, this is what we want.
Yeah, these parameters were suggested to us through the EDC on programs that they have administered in other cities, looking at the success and the type of businesses that the activity that they're getting. So if the council certainly wants to lower that $5 million to 4 or 3, that is going to narrow the pool of businesses that are going to be participating. We can adjust it. We can let it go. You can change that parameter, and we can reevaluate it in a year, and based upon the recommendation of the EDC, how they how they're seeing the activity.
And we could, I assume, do it the other way as well, go with this amount and then say, and then if we see they've serviced two companies that are dealerships that are fit at 5 million, and maybe that's not met the objective that we desire here.
Correct. Correct.
Is this something that we could look at any time? Like,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like, it's not sealed in cement, correct?
Yeah.
And we receive an annual report, is that correct?
We will give, yes, we will certainly give the council an annual report on the.
Of usage and, right.
So, so based on that alone, I don't see that it would be harmful, put it that way. Because we could look at it and say, hey, this isn't working, talk to EBC and see if they have a different suggestion, and then change that at that time.
The concern I would want to raise is if you lower the 100,000 threshold, to Ms. Swan's point, equipment is very expensive now, and the cost of kitchen equipment especially has gone up. If we're looking at funding, if we don't have that high threshold, we're eliminating those businesses that could participate in the program. Not to say that they're all going to come in at, they all need a commercial range that is $70,000 or.
Well, and I do recognize too that they really do have to qualify in terms of.
Yes.
Of the other.
And they probably, as with all these other requirements built in, that there's a turn down letter that's required. They have to have some skin in the game and provide that equity into it as well. Our funds are protected. We're very comfortable with that. It's just a matter of what pool we're looking at attracting. I would say broaden the pool as much as you can today, and then see and see what the loans look like after a year.
Is not, I'm asking you a question, but not expecting an answer, Think of, I know you're in business.
And I know you've had businesses as well, Mayor.
Yeah,
So,
and
go
we
ahead.
both know how much money it is. And
Yeah.
I guess the question is, what would benefit you if you needed a loan, And again, I'm not.
Right. No, I hear you. No, I hear you. And this is a very competitive rate. This is a very, well, I'm sure you and I both could have used this kind of a loan as we were doing our businesses. There's no question. The question I have is I want to be sure that we are assisting those who, our small businesses and really keep them from disappearing. It is hard, especially small businesses, to find the capital and sometimes to go forward. And so that's my concern, that we really are assisting that group. And I guess that's where you set your parameters, so
Well, I would like to make a motion to lower that threshold to 3 million as opposed to 5 million, then revisit this and see if we have enough applicants or not. Not the 100,000, but the.
right,
Lower to 3
the gross
million.
sales.
Yes, 3
Basically,
million
and
in
still
gross
allow
sales.
the size of the loan, but a smaller.
And then we can always revisit it later.
Yeah, that would certainly be a smaller business. I would support that, but
Someone's getting a call.
not me. Just a little vibration going on.
Public hearings, you're not supposed to be answering the phone. But just thinking out loud.
So may I make a motion, Mayor, to lower the threshold to
I'm
3
sorry,
million?
I thought you did.
Yes, I did.
Okay. You can make it again.
Okay.
I didn't catch that motion.
Make a motion to lower the threshold to $3 million.
And I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
So just to be clear, that this is to approve approve everything that's here with the one change of lowering the threshold. What it would do is it would
People available to this money is what you're going to do.
a smaller business would be targeted is what I believe would happen at 3 million.
I look around our city and I've seen some, what I would call sizable businesses that could have maybe survived had they had this. So I think it's you know, I don't know.
But this is to help small businesses.
That's what we're helping.
That's the purpose of this grant. That's why I wanted to
That's what helps small
prioritize those
businesses.
who hadn't received any funding at all.
This is overwatched. It has oversight. There's nothing wrong with it. The staff wrote the report. I'm not going to support that.
Then why not prioritize those who haven't received any funding? Why not lower the threshold to 3 million? We can revisit it later.
Well,
No.
the motion was not, I want to be very clear. The motion that was made and that I seconded had nothing to do with whether or not they'd received other assistance. So what I second was that we would consider lowering the threshold of small business to 3 million in gross sales annually. That is what I seconded, just to be clear.
Okay, so I'll make another motion to
Well, we do have a motion and a second, so,
You got to go vote on that one, or
Okay.
you got to withdraw.
yeah, so you've got,
Okay, so let's go ahead and go for the vote.
Motion fails with a 2-2 vote.
So then I'm willing to make the motion as it exists in the report.
Second.
I had a previous motion to prioritize
Oh, I apologize.
those who have not received any funding.
Okay, do we have a second on that? Okay.
Tamara?
Yes.
Yes.
motion died for lack of a second?
Yes.
Yes, okay,
Motion failed for lack of a second.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I motion, should I read it exactly as it's in the report?
Yes, please.
Let me get to the right page. I move that we approve the COVID-19 Community Recovery Grant between the City of Simi Valley and the Economic Development Collaborative, Ventura County, for a not-to-exceed amount of $1,025,000 for the creation of a business assistance revolving loan program and authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
I'm voting no specifically because,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
yes,
You
I'm
have-
sorry, Mayor. Are we voting?
Yeah.
Are you done with your statement?
No, I'm voting no specifically because I don't want to see this money go to the same businesses who have already received assistance and see more of our small businesses fail. That's why I'm voting no, but I fully support small businesses.
Okay, all right, call for the vote.
Motion passes with Councilmember Luevanos voting no and Councilmember Kavanaugh recusing. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 10A, City Council Member Reports.
All right, Councilmember Luevanos, will you start?
Yes. On Sunday, October 30th, I attended the Mass for St. Peter Claver. I sat way in the back. I know that Mayor Mashburn was there and Councilmember Judge were there and Councilmember Litzler I saw on her way out. And I don't know whether Councilmember Kavanaugh was there because I was sitting in the back, not in the front. So I was there to celebrate the 50th anniversary with Archbishop Gomez. I have to tell you, it was wonderful to hear Archbishop Gomez talking about the wonderful contributions that immigrants make and promoting diversity in our community and brotherhood and friendship and empathy. And his message was beautiful. So it was wonderful to have the Archbishop. We still have the red flags there on the church showing that, that an Archbishop was amongst us. I got to see Father Beller again and a lot of the old priests that my children were very attached to because we've been parishioners at St. Peter Claver for over 20 years. So my son was like, say hi, say hi to Father Beller because that's their memories of, First Communion and confession, and those are the people that they interested. So it was beautiful to see so many community members there. The church was packed. I was unable to stay for the reception, unfortunately, because I went straight to the Dia de los Muertos event at Strathern Historical Park, the Day of the Dead, and it was, as always, a wonderful, wonderful event. We had various ballet folclóricos, we had Cielito Lindo, we had, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank of all the Orgullo Mexico. So we had all the different ballet folclóricos, and in case you didn't know, we have 3 Mexican ballet folklorico groups, and you do not have to be Mexican to join. Anybody can join if you want to learn. Any age, you can start as young as 3, male or female. It was a beautiful, beautiful event. The Aztec dancers were there. They were doing the ceremony, and I saw all of the wonderful ofrendas and altars, and Hillside Ceramics Department was there with their calaveras again, which I love. So it was a beautiful, beautiful event at Strathern Historical Park. And I love to see and then there was the mariachi and ballet folklorico, and there were arts and crafts, and there were volunteers from Santa Susana High School. And so it was a beautiful, beautiful event, and I always look forward to attending the Dia de los Muertos event. On Thursday, November 3rd, I attended the Clean Power Alliance meeting, and this is our second to last meeting online, and then we're going to meet in person starting in January, but that will not be me. It was, we were looking at the different policies and resolutions to continue to meet by teleconference. So we are going to, even though we're going to start meeting in person, we're going to still continue to allow a Zoom option. We want to make sure that the public can participate from wherever they are, because we know that people work and they can't always come in person. And so we are going to continue to allow the Zoom option once we start meeting in person in January. We looked at the power charge adjustment, the PCIA, that's a power charge indifference adjustment, and the SoCal Edison generation rate levels. In case you did not know, the CPUC, the California Public Utilities Commission, is having hearings this month to talk about the rate levels for energy. Energy demand is going to just continue to go up. It doesn't seem like it's ever going to go back down, which means that costs are going to continue to increase. But the PCIA adjustment was by SoCal Edison means that you're going to get a better deal with Clean Power Alliance through the spring than with SoCal Edison. Then we took a report on financial statements and the actual report, and that's my report from the Clean Power Alliance. We did say goodbye to several directors who will not be returning to Clean Power Alliance, and again, we remembered a board member, Carmen Ramirez, who has passed away. On Saturday, November 5th, I went back to St. Peter Claver because they had their boutique this weekend, and I know there's a number of community boutiques that are happening, but I think St. Peter Claver's is the best because they have homemade from scratch cinnamon rolls, and no one has the cinnamon rolls St. Peter Claver has. So I was back at my parish doing that. Want to remind everyone that today is STEM Day. That only 28% of people in STEM fields, that's science, technology, engineering, and math, are women, and of those, only 5% are women of color. So there's a lot of scholarship money if you do want to go into the STEM fields. We have our own STEAM middle school, Hillside, and we have STEM fields at Santa Susana High School. So I encourage you to go into the STEM fields. Also want to remind everyone that I had a report today, and I had to communicate with the county supervisor about voter intimidation. It is illegal. It is a federal crime to intimidate voters, whether they're coming to the ballot drop box or whether you are voting in person at the polls, that you can be subject to jail time and a $1,000 fine. So I just want to remind everyone, there is a hotline. It's on my social media. Phone number that you can call if you are being harassed or intimidated while you're dropping off your ballot. They already had someone come out from the county, and if it happens again, then that person is going to face local law enforcement. You cannot intimidate voters. Voting is your right, and you have every right to go and not be harassed when you're at the polls or when you're dropping off your ballot. So I wanted to let people know about that. And tomorrow is Election Day. I know we were trying to get out of here because tomorrow is Election Day, but I just want to remind people, you can drop off your ballot. We have a ballot drop box right here, right outside of City Hall. You can drop off your ballot at any of the polling places. Remember that your vote is your voice. And if you lost your mail-in ballot, you can just show up at a polling place, tell them, I lost my mail-in ballot, I don't know where it is, and you'll sign a document and they'll let you vote, okay? So you don't have to turn in your mail-in ballot if you lost it. You just show up at the polling place, let them know, you verify that you lost it or you don't have it, and then you get to vote, okay? So, and if you try to do both, if you try to mail in your ballot and go vote in person, then they're just gonna cancel your vote. So don't try to do that either. So I just want to let you all know. I'm going to translate that in Spanish if it's all right with you, Mayor. Nomás quiero acordarles que es si los están amenazando verbalmente o físicamente cuando van a entregar su boleta de votación, eso es ilegal. Okay? No pueden intimidarlos, no pueden amenazarlos ni físicamente ni verbalmente cuando van a votar, cuando vienen a dejar su boleta de votación. Nadie puede pedirles cómo votaron o por quién votaron o por qué votaron, no lo pueden amenazar. Si hacen esas cosas, eso es ilegal y pueden enfrentar una multa de más de $1,000 e ir a la cárcel. Es un crimen federal. Así que si alguien los está amenazando mientras van a votar o dejar su boleta de votación, por favor, hablen al condado y déjenlos saber que los están amenazando. Last but not least, I would like to I'm wearing these glasses on purpose. I'm wearing this pin on purpose. There's a flag outside of my office on purpose. We've had a lot of transphobia and homophobia in the community, and I'm going to let the LGBTQ community know yet again that I am watching you, I am hearing you, and I am standing up and fighting for you. That you are not alone. And as far as I am concerned, I will stand with all of our LGBTQ students, colleagues, and community members, and I will continue to do that. I see you, I hear you, I stand with you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Monday, Friday, October 28th, I attended the, no, that was next, sorry, that was the other Friday. Saturday, October 29th, I attended Street Fair. Our Chamber of Commerce put on a great street fair again, well-attended. It was a blast. There were so many people out there, it was crazy. Walked it a few times, said hi to a lot of people, met some new people, a lot of great vendors out there. On Sunday, October 30th, I did attend, as was mentioned, the St. Peter Claver celebrating their 50-year anniversary. It was very impressive. It was a great mass, great accomplishment. Glad to see they had that going on. On Tuesday, November 2nd, I attended the grand opening Chamber of Commerce event for the CSMC Mortgage over here on Lemon and Alamo. On Thursday, November 3rd, I attended Skag Regional Council and Transportation Committee, where again, we demanded, not so demanded, we asked really nicely, that we get a plan for the state's electrification process for vehicles, trucks, and transportation. Since we don't have a plan, there's no way we can really implement this or tell people what to do, because so far, there are no electric buses that work properly, and there are no electric trucks that work properly. We have electric cars, that's about it. We still have no way to tell these people how they're going to charge these vehicles through the state's plan. We would really like to see a plan on how we're going to be charging these vehicles. On Friday, November 4th, I attended VCTC meetings where I also explained to them what we're asking for from the Transportation Committee on Skag to find out how we're going to do this electrification. And it has not been forthcoming. Nothing's changed as far as our Caltrans reports. That's why I didn't share them with the council, because basically the Caltrans report hasn't changed from the last one I gave you. Friday night, I attended the Chamber social event for their leadership class. Again, it's always good to see the people involved in the community. On Saturday, November 5th, I attended with the leadership class of the Chamber of Commerce the Cultural Arts Center's 1776 play, which was an outstanding play. I loved the movie when I was a kid. I remember being in junior high when 1976 happened, and we got to watch the movie in our NPR room over at Sequoia, and I just love that play. It's great play. On Sunday, November 6th, I attended the Hopetown reunion up at Hummingbird Nest Ranch, and that's my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. I also attended the Simi Valley Chamber Street Fair. It was great. There were a lot of people there. The weather was perfect. A lot of dogs walking around, so people were enjoying that. A lot of booths. The city booth had some presents out there, except they ran out of those water buckets before I got there. So I was a little disappointed in that, but I saw everyone else carrying them, so that's okay. So that was a good idea, whoever came up with that. So that was very nice. It was very nice to see everybody out there, and anyone that knows how to open and close a Bob stroller, they can help me next time with my grandson's stroller. Yeah, it was a joy. And October 31st was Halloween. I hope everyone had a happy Halloween. I noticed we had a little bit lighter turnout. I think I've heard that from some people, but I think that's because everyone celebrated all weekend long. It kind of worked out well this year. It was my grandson's 3rd birthday, so we added that in there. On Wednesday, November 2nd, I had my EDC executive meeting. Thank you very much for approving that contract. A lot of work went into that. The lending program, Marvin Botang is the director of lending for the EDC. He does a fantastic job. He does a great job. He's very experienced, very knowledgeable. We have minimal to zero losses in regards to the loans that we give out because they do such a good job. And I know you described how there is a loan committee. I know I worked with a couple of former other bankers that would be on that loan committee. And so it's a great thing. We also have our new board getting ready to take over. I'm currently the chair. So in January, I'm the vice chair. So in January, I will become the first chair, which is kind of nice. First chair from the East County. You know, we're the stepchildren, so nobody from Thousand Oaks or Simi has ever been there. So I'm very happy to be that. We're going to be adding 4 new members from Santa Barbara because we are actually moving into the Santa Barbara area. For those of you that don't know, our EDC is one of the most recognized and one of the most celebrated EDCs in the state, if not the nation. And that's because of the guy that runs it mostly. Bruce Stensley is fantastic. LA tried to steal him. And he didn't go because he likes working with us. And we have a very strong board of directors that's from the entire county, and we support them. And Bruce and his staff do a fantastic job. They do a lot of lending. They do a lot of outreach. All you have to do is call. They have multiple languages available for assistance. They have experts that do everything. They have experts. They have business planning experts. They have restaurant management. Since I've been on the board, we've done a couple of childcare facilities that have done extremely well. So they can help you, and it's all free, and that's the best thing. I constantly am posting things on my Facebook page whenever they put something out. So they're a great place to find information and or to get free services. And let's see. And just a couple of announcements. This Saturday, the 12th, is the Simi Valley Boutique Crawl. For those of you that want to support your local businesses and get your holiday shopping started. And if you look that up on Facebook, they have a whole Facebook for it and tells you where all the different locations are. It's always a lot of fun, and then you see people from the community around too. Congratulations to Tamara and Angelica for running the meeting for the first time by themselves. You ladies did a great job. I appreciate that. And just in memory, if we could close, today is the 4th anniversary of the borderline tragedy where we lost 12 people, along one of those being Sergeant Ron Helis. I drew a blank, and I've met him before. Sergeant Ron Helis. So a prayer for all of those people and their families tonight would be appreciated. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. On Thursday, October 27th, I attended the VCOG annual dinner, Ventura Council of Governments. It was well attended, well represented, and it was a lovely interaction with all of the elected officials that were there, and also we had the head of SCAG was also in attendance, but it was a good evening. I appreciate Camarillo for sponsoring that. Saturday, October 29th, I too attended the street fair. I think I was working in the Simi Valley Ed Foundation booth, and that's where I hung out. And I appreciated that their mission was to cause students to come in and write thank you notes to their teachers. And it was very successful that they ran out of thank you note forms. So not only were kids getting candy, they were saying thank you in a lovely way. Yes, it was very good to attend the beautiful gathering at St. Peter Clavier with my fellow council members. Congratulations to 50 years of being in our community. And I love that they pointed out that St. Rose has been here for 100 years. And so there's some storied history with our wonderful Catholic diocese. So it was great to be there. I confess I was gone for the next several days after that, helping my parents in Idaho. So I got to see how they do trick-or-treat up there. But I do want to say thank you to all the amazing events that were held locally. Truly, we have a community that celebrates together, and from everything from Des Mortes to just all the different trunk-or-treats, I think our community enjoys celebrating together. Anyway, I returned from Idaho on Thursday and unfortunately missed because of travel, wasn't able to attend my Energy and Environment SCAG Regional Committee, so my apologies. On Friday, November 4th, I did attend the grand opening of the Body Brain Train, the ribbon cutting. They've been operating for a while, but it was their official ribbon cutting. And I know I iterated earlier was during the consent calendar, but it was very lovely to see them in action as they had patrons there. And as I was able to speak with Nikki and others about how they do go out to the senior center and to some of the different senior resident homes and are providing this service. And you could see by the patrons that were there too that they were really helping those with their physical fitness and with their holistic approach. And they are, I think, being very good shepherds with the city money that they have received. On Sunday, November 6th, I had the opportunity to represent the city at the Eagle Scout Court of Honor for Austin and Trevor Crane, and two brothers, and I loved that they waited to hold this Court of Honor until Trevor had earned his. They wanted to do it together. And these are outstanding young men in our community, both members of the Junior ROTC and Air Guard. But I also wanted to say a special thank you to the Elks Lodge. Mike, I know that you're a member of that organization, but this is probably the third Eagle Court of Honor that I've attended in the last 2 or 3 months there. And they truly go out of their way to support the scouting program in our community, in addition to all the other things they support, first responders and veterans, et cetera. They truly have a wonderful mission in our community. I join my voice with those who encourage everyone that tomorrow is Election Day. This is an exciting time that we can exercise our right to vote and encourage everyone to do so if they haven't already done so. I know we've been voting for a while, but please, tomorrow's the deadline. If you haven't done it, get it done tomorrow. And I thank you to my colleagues who've all been part of the process. And that ends my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. On Saturday, October 29th, I too attended the street fair, and it was, like everybody said, it was awesome. Large crowd, lots of booths, lots of information being provided to everyone. It was a very, very successful event in my eyes. On Sunday, October 30th, I too attended the 50-year celebration of St. Peter Claver, and I don't need to say what others had said. It was really a great event. Inspirational, I think is the proper word, and thank you so much to them. And it was interesting that St. Rose is 100 when St. Peter Claver was 50. And I think the bishop said something about being there at the 100th, if I remember right. He planned on being there. Yeah. On Halloween, I was able to go to a neighborhood that I'm not going to quite give you the street names, but incredible neighborhood. Everybody was giving out like full-size candy bars. One house was giving out hot dogs to anybody that wanted them, cooked hot dogs. And we won't tell the fire marshal, they were cooking them in their front yard. And then every house on the same street, I think, started competing against the hot dog guy. And they were given different drinks, and the list just goes on and on. And police chief's gone, right? Oh, no, he's gonna retire anyway. That we couldn't use the streets. It was just covered with children in costumes and adults being children, driving their golf carts down the street, all licensed and approved, and mufflers and everything. But anyway, there was islands throughout the city. So of course, some of us didn't get the traffic because the wise one knew where to go, and they got more traffic than they knew what to do with. But it was really a nice evening and fun to watch everybody. On Sunday, November 6th, let's see, that was yesterday, wasn't it? I was at the Hopetown Grand Prix reunion, and it was a reunion for what I call gearheads, people that are interested in motorcycles, cars, that type of thing. And it was a very nice event, well attended, and a special thanks to the Rotary Sunset for incredible amount of work that they did, along with other Rotary members. That the Rotary clubs work together. If you need help, you call the other club, and they help. So made it such an easy event.
And didn't you chair it too?
Did I chair it?
Didn't you chair it?
I don't want to take credit for
No.
it. I just walked around.
Okay. I thought I had read that
The
somewhere.
Rotary did all the work, but I was the host, I think.
Okay.
But
Okay.
end result is it was a great time, and if you're a gearhead, which there's a lot of us in Simi Valley, that's an event to see, but you're a year away from it now. And that's my report. Okay. 10A. B, excuse me. You changed.
I have 3 requests, Mayor.
Okay.
One is for the Native American Heritage Proclamation.
Yeah, that's on the agenda for next week.
Okay, thank you.
So no.
The next request is, I would like an investigation as to why the Planning Commission has not met since June.
Okay. Is that
We can certainly put something in your boxes on what the calendar's been.
okay?
And is that something we can share with the public? Because I've had several members of the public asking, why has the Planning Commission not met?
Yeah.
Okay. And my last request is specifically addressing an issue that was brought up by a constituent. We were promised that we were going to address the RV ordinance in July, and then August, and then September, and now it's November. So this has been punted for the 4 years that I've been in office, and I would like to know why that is and when we are going to actually enforce the RV ordinance.
I'm happy to put something in the council boxes on the strategy for dealing with the RV ordinance.
Well, I think the strategy has been to avoid it, so I would like it to be on the agenda. I'm asking for it to be agendized. You don't need to repeat it, Councilmember Judge. That's the second time. You don't need to be rude to me. Yet you are being rude, and you continue to do so. I would ask that you act in a mature, adult manner.
Stop. Okay.
It is my understanding that there is going to be, eventually, it's going to come back on the agenda. There's no question that it will be discussed, it will be resolved. What I'm understanding is that our city manager will give us an update on where it stands in that process.
Yeah, more than happy to. We're doing a much deeper dive into the last council report that was considered did not have, I think, the sufficient background that we really need to get to. There are a number of implications into how it can be enforced, as well as different options. We're trying to do a much more comprehensive report to the city council so they have all the information, so we can just do this one more time.
And will
So
that,
we're more than happy to provide a,
when will that happen? In another 4 years?
no.
When will that happen? The public wants to know. They came tonight specifically to ask about the RV ordinance again.
It will likely be, February.
So I just want to let the public know that I asked. I was denied. I seem to be the only one who cares about our constituents.
I don't think you were denied. It is going to be resolved. It's going to be discussed in February. Mayor,
I'd like to disagree. I think we all,
4 years, 4 years.
may I finish? I think we all care about our constituency. Maybe we have different ways of viewing it and have different opinions, but a blanket statement that says you're the only one that cares about the constituency, I think is incorrect.
When it comes to the RV ordinance, I've been the only one that has consistently advocated to address this issue.
Okay, I'm not gonna argue. Let's move on.
I do have one request, Mayor.
Okay, wait, make sure.
But I want to make sure that Ruth
Are you
has
done, Ruth?
has completed her request.
Yes, I requested, there was not a second, but I was waiting for the clerk to say that.
I'm sorry, a second, maybe I missed, you requested that it be put back on the agenda, and I heard it will be
I
in
request that it be
February.
put on the agenda for the next meeting.
I didn't hear that request.
Okay, let me make that request. I move that, I guess I have to make a motion, that the RV ordinance be put on the agenda for the next city council meeting.
That is 1 week away. I want the research done so it's done correctly.
Okay,
and so
for
we can
December
truly-
5th, I make a motion for the RV ordinance to be put on the agenda for December 5th meeting.
We will not be ready for that.
I think the city manager probably understands that we all want to see this addressed. And based on his comments, I think we ought to give him the time to put together a proper report for us. And that report will also go to the public because it'll come in the form of a agenda item. Okay, any others? You had,
I did. Maybe because I slept so fitfully, I would like to discuss staying the removal of the eucalyptus trees. I know we voted for that, I understand the reason behind it. What I didn't hear in that report was the concern about potential erosion and what it might mean if they are removed and in that hallway, and or in that roadway, because just the way they are planted, et cetera. And I didn't feel that was part of it. As far as the issue about bidding on, I think we have a good bid in terms of who would do the work. But maybe because I would love to know if we could save half of them, and what it does mean for the property as far as erosion. And I would like the residents who back up that property to be notified and have that be part of the discussion. So I would like to revisit it.
I will second that.
Or at least stay it. I mean, we voted to remove it, but stop the process for.
a tiny bit of discussion. You're talking on the ukes on Sinaloa.
Correct, eucalyptus trees on Sinaloa.
All right, so if we do this, which I'm not opposed to, we have to do a good education process. I don't want to tell everybody, I lived here for quite a long time. And I've watched numerous eucalyptus trees come down. And they're a self-pruning tree, like was told to us, which is also an added danger. And so we have to be very aware of the potential dangers to the area, anybody going up the road, anybody driving that road. And I think to say limit the number, unless you have an arborist that can say limiting the number, the others, the remaining will be safe. We have to look at the liability issue. And I went and drove Cadiz and looked at it, and it's not just the houses, in my opinion. There's many of the houses that back up to Sinaloa have garages, cars, RVs, lots of things. So the damage could be significant as one goes down. And as I reported, it was not on Cadiz, it was not on Sinaloa, but I saw one that went down and hit former resident Bob Ains' home and did extreme damage to it. I mean, they were out of that home for a long, long time. Had he been there, I wouldn't want to, I don't want to speculate that he had been hurt, but definitely the damage was such that it could have been. So I think the city's looking at a liability and danger along with the life of the tree, and I know that can be sometimes fighting, but I just wanted to point that out. Like I said, I've lived here for a long time, and I've watched those trees come down over and over again, and that's just the nature of that particular tree.
And I'm not, I understand if they need to come down, if they really are unhealthy. I guess I would like to look at the erosion problem, if there is an erosion issue there. And then, just in reading the report, I mean, can we remove half of them? And are 30 of them still safe, or still healthy?
Yeah.
Is it possible we could get a
Well, I'm not going to be the expert that says.
Yeah.
I can tell you what happened next door to my house. When they took 15 down, they had to make it 30, because when you take them down, it tears the roots up to the trees next to them. So
I'm sure they're all
it's a
intertwined.
domino effect. Yeah, you take one down, and it hurts the root structure of the one next to it. So, again, I am not professing to be the expert that makes that decision.
Is there some, I mean, obviously, can we consider looking at putting in another arborist that's not connected with?
Yeah, well, a number of issues come up, and
I would hate for us to violate the Brown Act. Councilmember Letzner made a motion, I seconded, so can we, that's enough to put it on the agenda item, yes?
I think we're still discussing.
Well, the question is it an agenda item? Is it a report item? Is it a immediately, let's have another arborist look at it and go forward item, I guess is what I.
Well, let me do this. The city's arborist has already indicated that he will be looking at each one of the trees before they ever take it down. So we're not reviewing, the initial approval is to take all the trees down. He will make sure that only trees that are diseased or have root ball problems will come down. That being said, we're more than happy to do another arborist report. Let us do the second arborist report. We'll let you know what the results are, and we'll go from there.
I would like that.
So we can certainly do that.
And that arborist won't be coming from.
We'll handle it through our office, so there's a clean break between what's happening in Public Works and what's going on with that. So we'll handle it through our office.
Thank you. Okay. Are we done? All right. This evening, we have to adjourn in memory of one of our own, is the way I see it, is Stephen Sampson, who was a reserve officer here for many years, and then as a volunteer in the city for many more years, and just a real good guy. And didn't he served as chaplain also, didn't he? Yes. And he passed away, about a week ago. And so tonight's meeting will be adjourned in his memory. And with that, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.